But the way is to identify a revenue stream at the state to transition away from the property tax. So you can either not increase, or it doesn't have to go 2.5%, or quite frankly, maybe it could be lower. And usually when you present the idea that says we can lower the property tax, most people buy in. It's the other side of the equation that you lose a lot of people, because you talk about, well, the sales tax. You say, well, we'll do a penny or 2 cents on the sales tax, and figure every penny on the sales tax raise roughly $600 million. But then you look at what neighboring states do, and there's always an incentive to go further incent people going across the border and doing things. Right now on the sales tax, 1 out of every 5 cents is going to be going to school building assistance, 1 to the MPA as a revenue stream. The other major sort of area you can go to is the income tax. Well, there's another rail. So usually, like I said, you say, well, we want to lower the property tax. Everybody buys in, so we're going to do it by raising the income tax. So the best way to think about it, if you wanted to lower everybody's property tax bill by about 10%, because in the aggregate, state raises, the cities and towns raise about $10 billion, roughly, off the property tax. You need to raise $1 billion or add at least 1 percentage point on the rate of the income tax. So you have to go from 5 to 6%, or 6% to 7% to do that. And there's a basis for doing that, but the problem is everybody likes one side of the equation, the other side of the equation is challenged. I don't disagree with you. I think we need to work towards that. Again, it's trying to develop a consensus around what everybody wants to lower one or not rely on one, i.e. the property tax. The difficulty is arriving at what's the right balance on the other side of the equation and arriving at a consensus that you can buy in. I think it's going to be some consensus that's arrived at by putting some proposals on a ballot. The voters decide which one of the many they want to do. Some states have done that. Say, we'll lower property taxes by this amount and replace it by, you pick either A, B, or C, and whichever one comes out as the majority, that's the way we'll go. And that is an attractive way of doing it in terms of getting buy-in by the community or the public.
Thank you. We've got a lot on our agenda to cover, and I'd like to move on at this point. I don't think we have any choice of be here until 4 in the morning. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
are you going to give the department?
Yes, absolutely. As we look at these various options that we have, the department head will have an opportunity to discuss the impact of that proposed change, because I'm sure the board would like to hear that. Okay, and with that, I'm just going to go and flip a couple of slides and proceed with our discussions. So earlier this evening, I had got to the point where we talked about additional school funding. And I'll just go over it again for those that might not have heard it. In the process of closing on the status quo budget, we found ourselves with a surplus of $23,699. And I mentioned at that point that the town administrators requesting that we put $25,000, approximately that amount of money, back into the town budget to add a half-time person in IT. And the main reason is we're currently integrating a new accounting system for both town and school, and we need to make this successful. And we can only have a single individual and some outside consulting handling that issue, and it's just insufficient to do the job. The proposal was to take $85,200 out of the small cap in the town's budget and delay funding it until October town meeting out of anticipated free cash that we would have certified for October. Additionally, we'd take $120,000 of small cap money from the school budget, fund $70,000 of it now in April from available free cash, and the balance in October. And then we still don't have a health insurance number, and we're using 15% in our budget estimate for cost, And we believe now that it's probably going to be more like 12%. We're hoping that it's even less, but at 12%, it frees up another $147,000. That would put into, if the board can go along with this proposal, $375,000 or $376,000 less than $25,000 the town administrator needs into the school budget. Additionally, and this is a list of other sources of, and they're all cuts, that could be applied to provide up to $495,000. It's kind of a pick list, call it that. And I'll just go through it real quick again. Under recreation, currently, about $150,000 of town revenue funds the recreation budget. The rest of the recreation budget is funded by fees in a revolving account. In balancing the status quo budget, we're taking essentially $50,000, I'm using round numbers, from the recreation budget and to fund one salary position and moving it into the revolving fund. This would require the recreation department to raise fees to cover that cost. This is an additional $100,000. What this is the balance of the recreation budget. It's funded through your tax bill. And by doing this, put all of the programs of the recreation into the revolving fund, and clearly that would cause them to raise additional fees to fund the program or scale it down. And I'm going to go through all of these, and we'll let each department head provide you some information on the impact. The library proposal would be to cut in half the number of hours that the library provider is open. And of course, that would automatically cause the losing of our certification, and we would be out of the consortium. So it's a major cut in a particular service. But when you're talking about school kids and you're talking about other things, you have to take these things into consideration. And I believe our department head is here, and we'll allow her to speak to that. Treasurer's office, this is a salary position that we would not fill. Our treasurer collector resigned and moved on to another position. We hired someone from within, and that person from within left the position open, which we have not yet filled. CPC office, if we reduce staff member there, would be $25,000. Town clerk's office, $41,000. DPW, one position, $33,000. These are estimated numbers based on what we believe would be saved in the process. Human resources, by eliminating the position, it's a half-time position now, would be eliminated completely, would be $46,000. And if we eliminated 2 police officers, it would be $100,000. So this, off this pick list is an additional $495,000 in cuts that could be made. Now, I've got to say that if any of these cuts are voted on tonight, putting those cuts, putting those personnel back and the programs back would be in a proposed override. Question. Almost on a dollar-for-dollar basis, if you look at it from the point of view that would reduce, by funding the school budget, would reduce the amount of the school override, but it would be supplemented by an equal amount of the town override. There's a couple of issues that wouldn't be funded. Obviously, some of the money on this slide related to a savings in insurance obviously wouldn't have to go in the override budget, but other things would. We probably would go back and put cap into the school budget, into the town budget, things like that, all of which we will discuss and make decisions on tonight. Just the unknown funding, and I think Representative Jones said additional Chapter 70 money, I think I could take that off the list now. Actual town health insurance cost, I've already mentioned it. For every 1% that we get a savings, we save about $47,000. There's a couple of other things that are a concern, obviously. We all know that our cost of fuel, gasoline, and heating bills have gone up, and the paper continues to report and we have some exposure there. Fortunately, our school business manager, our town finance director, DPW people have engaged in contracts, and we haven't get hit with the increases that maybe a lot of homeowners have seen. So we don't think that's currently at risk, but we are watching it carefully. And the vocational school assessment I went into a little earlier. Last year, we usually get the final bill long after we have our town meeting. And we got a big bill, and we had to supplement that budget in October. We used that number this year, and then we found out that it might be less. But it's still an iffy thing, and we won't know until it's long past, and it's something we usually deal with in October. Mentioned the free cash. I'll go through that one more time. We have currently available $189,000 in free cash. Free cash is generated by what's based on our revenue estimate. We make a budget estimate. We do our expenditures. Right? It's prudent to, when you make a revenue estimate, to be somewhat conservative. And we've been less conservative as we've gone forward. But whatever's left at the end of the fiscal year, on June 30th, it's counted up, and that becomes certified by the state auditors, and becomes free cash for the following year. So money that we don't spend in our budgets, but mostly from fees and things that come in a little above our estimates, is what generates free cash. And it's prudent that we do generate some free cash, because free cash is typically used for our capital expenditures. Without it, we have no capital plan. We don't replace police cruisers, we don't do repairs to buildings, and so on and so forth. So keep that in mind. Anyway, out of free cash, we plan on taking at the April town meeting $60,000 for the purchase of an additional module for the Munis accounting system, and to provide some consulting services to help get this implemented. This is a major expense that we've already funded in terms of buying the software and the programs. It supports both the school and the town. Why we're doing it is the system that we currently have is a system that there's only 1 or 2 users in the state. There's a company, call it a mom and pop company. These people are getting older. There's some fear that as we go forward, we will not get support anymore for this. And if that happens in the middle of the year, we could be dead in the water. So this is a must. The police cruiser is what the town administrator had taken out of the earlier round of budgeting when he took the $184,000 out to get it to a 3% level. Sanitation is just a prior year's school bill for trash collection that somehow slipped through the cracks and didn't get paid. And the $70,000 is for the textbook adaptations in the capital plan that I had proposed, where we would eliminate a small cap from this year's budget, from the school budget, move it into funding $70,000 from free cash, and the balance from free cash in October. That would leave us a balance of $7,400. So you've heard talk about the stabilization fund that we established in October. This is all money from the Berry project. And it was the board's intent to put this into a stabilization fund to leverage our borrowing. Now, when we take our increase in revenue due to Proposition 2.5 and new growth, we have a sum of money to distribute this year's budget. The first thing that we do, it's actually in 3 pieces. The first thing we do is we take and pay off our fixed costs. The 3 prime numbers in the fixed cost are our insurance, health insurance, and life insurance, our employee benefits basically, for town and school. That's in this first piece of the budget. The second piece is the county retirement. It's an obligation that we have. And our district has been penalized by the fact that our county retirement made some bad investments a number of years ago, and now we're making up for that too. So we got a double hit. We've had a large number of retirees, and that's been driving a relatively high percentage increase each year. And the third is our debt service, for the borrowing that we do that's non-override debt. It's not the bachelor school, it's not the police station, it's not the Smith property. It is, in fact, any other borrowing that we do. So it was the intent of the board